Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Stranger Rings podcast. Today we have a exciting but also kind of sad subject. Tom, we are talking about the 15-year anniversary of the death of Eddie Guerrero. How are you doing, though?
Corey, I'm doing okay. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and record. It's always nice to be able to take some time aside and be able to talk about some fun things in wrestling. And this was a lot of fun to watch, even though there's a lot of questions like, what could have been. But it's nice to just be able to sit and enjoy the greatness of Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, we got three matches we're going to talk about today. Probably the three greatest hits of the many that Eddie Guerrero had, one from each of the companies. So that was kind of our focus when we were picking them. But Eddie, man, he was on top when I first started watching. So it was I always will remember everything he did fondly, from 2004 on to, when he passed.
Right. And that was a era where all the top stars like Stone Cold and The Rock and everybody had started to depart, so they had to give the ball to other people in the company, and Eddie Guerrero was one of those guys, and he truly made a mark with every wrestling fan that watched him, and I'm sad that I didn't get the chance to see him when he was alive, because I started watching wrestling in like late 05, early 06, but by the time I really started getting into it, Eddie had already passed. So
Yeah, and he was just so good at that end run too. Like he was great the whole time, but that last heel run was just incredible.
yes, and especially what I remember, other than the "I'm Your Poppy" storyline, which we've already covered, was he did a match with Benoit at ECW One Night Stand, and he did his entrance with his whole like "Can You Feel the Heat" song, and the look on his face was like he looked like the meanest man in the world.
Yeah,
Eh,
he played it so well.
yeah, he was just such a great heel. He was a great baby face too. Like no matter what he did, I think he is the most well-rounded performer possibly of all time.
And I remember him more as a face because he was the champion when I first started watching. He had
Right.
when I the first pay-per-view I ever got was the Great American Bash '04,
Oh wow.
and it was, that serves me correct, that was
The bull
was that the
rope.
bull rope? Yes.
Yep.
And I remember him losing the title and just being like so defeated as a little kid because I was like, damn, that's one of my guys right there, him and Cena.
Right. And Eddie, he did. I do think that he it's a very tough thing because it's the combination of the fact that his personal issues, and then maybe he wasn't seen as the guy by Vince McMahon. I know Bruce Pritchard has said on his podcast he pushed a lot for Eddie because he's a huge fan of the Guerrero family, but he Eddie had talked about how the pressures of being WWE champion really had started to get to him, and with his health and everything, like it was starting to wear on him. So it's good that Eddie got to enjoy without as much pressure, I guess, the last year and a half of his career. But still, like you would have loved to see another title run for Eddie.
And that's one of the things, was it's very it's almost confirmed, I would say, at this point, that he was about to get that second title run,
Right.
when
Right.
he
Yeah.
passed away.
Yeah. He was supposed to. I remember Batista said in his book that Eddie was supposed to have like this really like they were going to be friends for a while, and then Eddie was going to have this really big heel turn on him, and with the big heel turn, then he would get the belt. But instead, we didn't get that. But we got it was nice to see Eddie as a face, I guess, at the end of the day, like where he wrestled Batista, and he was like kind of a good guy. Like I know I just recently listened to Bruce Pritchard, Something to Wrestle With. He did No Mercy 2005, and
Mhm.
he talked about how they had a lot planned for that character.
Yeah, and Bruce is always putting over Eddie, which I appreciate, because they were both Texas boys, so it worked out. But Eddie, just, God, what an incredible performer. And if he would have, the what could have been, we would have pretty much, it's almost confirmed too that we would have saw Eddie and Shawn at Mania.
Yeah.
which would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been another classic match that you talk about, like Angle and Shawn, just the year before. And just to think like that is almost guaranteed to be a match where it's looked at like as this inspired me to become a professional wrestler. Like that's the type of match I think they would have had.
Oh yeah, 100%. I could see it being a 5-star match, and if you got a trilogy out of it, like I just don't even know the how it would be talked about to this day. Probably one of the best trilogies of matches if that would have happened. And then even if Eddie, he was 38 when he passed away, so say he wrestled till about 2010, put another 5 years on, got out. There's so many matchups there that would have been good. You would have had CM Punk come in at that time. You
Yeah,
would have
you would have.
had
Oh man.
who else was real big right then? Him and Orton hadn't had too much interaction.
Yeah, Triple H and Eddie.
Triple H and Eddie, Edge.
Yeah, Edge when he
Edge when
got
he was
big.
rated R. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that they could have done. And then, I mean, if you just think about then the impact he could have had, maybe even as a producer backstage, or if he would have stayed with the company or he would have went somewhere else, but just his legacy, I think that he would have been appreciated. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people, sometimes the argument is, well, if this person hadn't have died, they would, it's a very dark argument, but like if this person wouldn't have died, then they wouldn't be remembered as fondly. I think Eddie would be remembered just as fondly no matter what with his
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I was just thinking, I know that Eddie and Jericho probably fought a bunch of times, but like in like '07, like or '08 when Jericho came back,
Yeah.
could have been an awesome feud too. So a lot of stuff that could have happened there would have been great, but we're going to focus on what did happen. And the first match we broke down here and watched was the 2 out of 3 falls between Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero on it was just like an ECW TV in '95, I believe.
Yes, it was the billed as the final showdown between the two because it was Eddie and Dean's last match that they had in the company before they went on to WCW.
Yeah, and the crowd knew it, and I believe this is talked about pretty heavily on the Rise and Fall DVD also. They talk about how the crowd knew they were leaving and they were chanting, "Please don't go," and "We love you," and all that stuff. And
Right.
it was just a very emotional night for the company, and two of the first, like actual technical stars that showed up there that weren't just swinging weapons.
Right. They brought a whole new, and like to get into it a little bit, we'll talk more after we cover the matches. We'll talk more about maybe his background and his life. Just an interesting structure here, but Eddie had come from AAA in Mexico where he was part of the Los Gringos Locos tag team with Art Barr, and they were supposed to start in ECW before Art Barr passed away. So Eddie went in on his own and he started the feud with Dean Malenko, and that's where they really showed out. Like I think they had a few really good matches before this final 2 out of 3 falls one.
Yeah, and this 2 out of 3 falls is I don't know if it got the almighty 5-star match distinction from the newsletter, but it's definitely up there as potentially a 5-star match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and this is including the matches that we will be covering later. I think this is my favorite match that we have covered on the podcast. Like, I walked in, I didn't know what to expect, but holy shit, these guys blew me away.
So the way I look at it is this match was probably the best mat and technical, like in-ring performance of the ones we're going to talk about. Each one of these matches had like its own thing that made it great.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what was awesome about it. And they're in different companies, so it's showing. It's not like you just got the WWE and got to show personality and everything. No, he showed it like throughout. He didn't have to go there to get propped up on a pedestal.
Right. And in ECW, it's just funny to see the transformation too, because like in ECW here, he's like complete white meat babyface where he's got his little mustache and everything going on. Like he looks like he straight out of the 1980s. And I just really amused me because I'm used to like Eddie with the frosted tips and the goatee and everything, and like looking hugely muscled as well.
Yeah, there's Eddie rocked that mullet for a long time too. Like
Yeah,
he
he
really
did.
did.
I love it. It was a bold fashion choice that Eddie managed to pull off.
Yeah, so this match here, it's 2 out of 3 falls. Now, I was working while I was watching this, but I missed the first fall, but I saw that the second one went to Eddie, correct? Or do I
The
have it the
second
other way around?
the second one went to Dean,
Okay.
um, because and I could do a little bit of the play by play for this one,
Hmm.
if you want, but
Yeah.
there was Joey Styles did the intro, and he announced that Dean and Eddie will be plying their trades with WCW soon, and the ECW crowd we just reminded us that we were in ECW because they started a Bischoff sucks dick chant.
Of course they did.
Bold strategy.
And they hated WCW more than, I mean, WWE they didn't like, but they hated WCW.
Right. It was, and because Vince McMahon, I guess they were able to respect a little bit because all of them had seen, like most of them had grown up on EC or like in the Northeast on WWF, so that makes more
Mhm.
sense rather than Eric Bischoff, the Ken doll looking guy. But
Yeah.
um,
I don't have the play-by-play down for this, but I will say I was blown away by the level of technical wrestling that was happening in the mid 90s in this match, because this is some of the stuff like you see these same things today.
yes, absolutely. And at the time, I can't even imagine how revolutionary this was.
Yeah, you're by the time if you've watched wrestling for I'm on year 16 now, which is very weird to say because that makes
Yeah.
me feel very old. But after seeing 16 years of wrestling and you start in the mid 2000s, it's hard to go back and watch because you've seen so many crazy moves and crazy moments by this point.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to really appreciate some of the stuff that go because it's almost so simple and we've seen it now like a headlock is a transitionary move and the DDT is too in stuff that used to be really big, but in this match we get like you said a lot of revolutionary stuff without much high flying either. They only had a few high spots.
Yeah, no, it's just good technical action. And Dean Malenko, I could watch him wrestle every day of my life. I mean, he is just so good. He matches Eddie perfectly.
Yeah, I had a conversation on Twitter with someone who they had asked actually for an Eddie Guerrero recommendation for a match. So I recommended this one, and they had said that Malenko was super underrated, and I would have to agree because just as a wrestler, so smooth. The selling is amazing. Like he doesn't have to talk his way into the building. Like he can just put on matches and like blow you away.
Yeah, I mean, if you could go across eras, like I would love to see him wrestle somebody like Adam Cole or like somebody like Kurt Angle. If we
Oh
could saw
wow,
Dean,
yeah.
I mean Dean and Kurt probably fought randomly, but like if we would have got like a
No, no, they
15
never
minute,
had a match.
they never did.
No, not to my
Oh
knowledge.
wow. Yeah, if you we would have got like a 15-minute like, when Kurt Angle maybe 02 like IC title or something would have
Right.
been great.
Yeah, Malenko just an absolute performer, and he comes out first during this match, and they to huge pop, and he actually looks like super emotional, like he looks like he's about to cry, which is knowing Dean Malenko's facial expressions, like it's really shocking because you're used to like you think the Iceman.
Yeah, he's almost as serious as Lance Storm.
Which would be another fun match, by
Oh
the
yeah,
way.
Lance Storm, like another one, very underrated.
Yes, absolutely. And they've managed to impart their knowledge to future generations. Dean Malenko is a producer in WWE and AEW now, and then Lance Storm with a job as a producer and as a trainer.
Yes, he is Lance Storm's one of the most underappreciated, I think. I mean, he does some things that like are ungodly athletic. Like he springboards to the top rope, and only Sheldon Benjamin and Pat McAfee do that.
Don't forget Mark Jindrak
And
too.
oh god, everybody has their one thing.
Yep.
God,
Sometimes some people can just jump to the top rope like crazy, but
and that's
um,
wait, now that's a random match too. Not to get completely off the Eddie Guerrero train, but Sheldon and Lance Storm would be a lot of fun.
Yes, it would. I could see that, and like especially if they were given enough time, like on a pay-per-view, they give them 15 minutes. Like holy
Oh
shit!
yeah,
But
for sure. I have
but
to break in and give a cheap plug to Stone Cold Steve Austin's beer here, trying the Broken
yes,
Skull IPA right now, and I am and not a big IPA person, but this is probably the best one I've had.
wow, high praise, man.
Well, I've also drank about two in my life, so it's not that high of praise, but um, but it's good. So good for Steve Austin.
Yes. I was telling Corey beforehand that I have a Kentucky bourbon ale that I was going to drink for this episode, but it turns out that I didn't put it in the fridge, so I can't drink it warm because I'm not a psychopath.
Oh my God. All
So,
right. So Eddie Guerrero here in this. So Dean Malenko is out. Good.
yeah.
He's breaking character a little bit, which is
Yeah.
impressive to get that to happen.
It is, and he comes out, he gets a standing ovation, and Dean chants. Eddie comes out, fashion watch, the first fashion watch of the night. We get green and black zebra striped tights from Eddie Guerrero,
Yeah,
along
that
with
was that,
his.
that was interesting.
Yeah, that it was a interesting fashion choice by Eddie. I'm used to him having really cool designs on his tights. This
Mhm.
one was surprising to me, to say the least.
Yeah, it was his babyface starter kit pants. That's what it was.
Like he's like, okay, I have to go in as a baby face now. What do I wear? And like, what's gonna pop the people?
They
Get the
love
sympathy crowd.
zebras.
Oh god,
It's such
ECW
good
crowd.
shit.
um, we get a handshake to start the match, and then immediately the "Please don't go" chants start, and both guys are like, you could tell that they're still emotional because of it, but they gotta focus on the task at hand. Um, there's some amazing technical wrestling, and I'm not going to go through every single move because I pretty much wrote down every single move because I fucking love this match so much. But they did so many innovative things, like Eddie went for a crucifix pin on Dean Malenko, and Malenko neck bridged out of it, like to prevent the pin from even happening.
Yeah, that was
Which,
that was impressive.
yeah, like the amount of strength and just technique that goes into that. Um, Eddie goes at the arm really early, and they fight for like the cool thing about this match that I loved was that it seemed like to me it reminded me something like of a shoot style wrestling like that Dean Malenko was trained in, but like something you would see in Japan or even like in an amateur wrestling contest or maybe on a jiu-jitsu mat somewhere because I mean and obviously not all the moves are the same, but just the amount of chaining and everything, it looked like they were fighting for each hold.
Yeah, it was more of a struggle than you see at all, now, where people are just it's sometimes it's painfully obvious where people are just working together to get
Right.
through a set of moves, but this all looked like, there was a little struggle in between every move, which is one of the small things you appreciate after, watching however many thousands of matches.
Right. Yeah, and it's something it makes you think this isn't just simulated combat, like this is some sort of art almost.
Yeah, and not to say that and there's anything wrong with the way it is now. It's
Right.
just like I mean, because there were some people that gave like the Ricochet Osprey match shit because it was like
So
choreographed
flippy.
gymnastics,
Yeah.
but it was also amazing. So
It was.
you just
It
got to take it
was.
both ways.
Yeah, and I think we're both fans of I think we both have open minds as fans, which a lot of people, they seem to not like they have, which is fine. You can like whatever you want, but I think we both can look at like different styles and say, okay, I can appreciate this hardcore brawl and this technical classic as well.
And I mean, stuff like, did you see what the Inner Circle has been doing?
Oh, I did see that they went to Vegas.
They did like the Hangover in Vegas, like they
I
did
love
pretty much
that.
a rip off, and that's great. But so I mean, there's little things. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's entertaining, I don't care. Even the
Right.
singing thing. I don't want to see a musical episode, but I mean, I'll look. I'll watch it once.
Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah,
They'll do
exactly.
it. Matt Hardy will do it, man. He does not care.
No, he doesn't at all.
Love it. Eddie pretty much goes for the arm early, and there's just some amazing chain wrestling that I can't really even describe because of how quick it is. Like everybody's got to watch this match. If there's any ever a match that you guys need to watch, except for our hidden gems and worst of wrestling, which you should watch along with us every single time.
Hmm. Yep.
But as a cheap plug, but this match just words don't do it justice. Like with the amount of technical wrestling that happens here.
And I mean, this is like a less than 20 minutes probably,
Yeah,
and it's a match that everybody else has probably seen the next two we're going to talk about,
right.
but not everybody's seen this. Like I had heard about this, but that was the first time I watched it, and I was like, wow, this holds up 25 years later.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you suggested this one too, because this is one of my new favorite matches now. Like, holy shit.
It really
But
is that good. Yeah, it's
yeah, it is, and they tell an excellent story with like Malenko goes for this. He stomps Eddie's face, and then like Eddie manages to fight out of it, and then Eddie does an even bigger stomp to Malenko's face.
yeah, it's just
Like,
it's a perfect match. You can tell they know each other. They've had probably 5 matches in ECW before this. Who knows how many in Mexico or on other independents, and like just everything they do here makes sense.
yeah, and it's truly amazing work because in this whole first fall, Eddie looks like the better wrestler, and as the baby face of the situation, like even though both men are considered faces that night, like it's clear, like okay, this is old school psychology. The baby face is the better wrestler, but the heel is more aggressive and can cheat.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what we get in this first fall. Eddie's pretty much dominant in it. He hits a belly to belly, he hits an enziguri, a superplex, tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, and like no matter what he does, like he's just continually in control at these high spots. And finally, it's a simple roll up that gets the pin for Eddie in the first fall.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole first fall is a story there where Eddie's just he's proving he's one of the best in the world, both in the story of the match and in just in real life. He is one of the best in the world at that, even at that time when he's
Right.
probably only 27, maybe, if that.
Yeah, he was super young, and he started. This is one small thing. His first official match was when he was like 9. He he wrestled with him and Chavo teamed up to face off against um Eddie's dad, Gory Guerrero, in a dark match, like because they always messed around in the ring and whatever. And
Mhm.
Gory actually put his son and nephew over.
That's awesome.
Yes, like as
I
9 and
could
6
really
year
love
olds,
that.
and the crowd loved it too.
Yeah, and he, where people grew up with a, whatever, playing wiffle ball or something in the backyard or soccer or football, these dudes grew up with a wrestling ring.
Yeah,
So they were just born to do this.
yeah, and I keep forgetting too that Dean Malenko is a second generation star too. His father Boris was, and he was another one where I think they had a ring at their house and they learned shoot style wrestling.
Yeah, and then it shows up here in this match for sure.
It does. Both of these guys know the fundamentals.
Yeah, man, they're incredible. It's like, oh God, I just Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko I've always been a fan of ever since I started watching like 97 I think the rise and fall of WCW, they had like 2 or 3 Dean Malenko matches on like the bonus parts, and they were all great. So I just became a big fan of his too.
Yeah, him and Rey Mysterio had some amazing matches as well, along with Jericho too.
Oh yeah, there just nothing bad can come from any of those people having matches together.
No, no, it's always going to be good. It's just a matter of is this an all-time classic or just a great match, which is a pretty nice bar to set.
Yeah, for sure. So the second fall here then goes to Dean. So you got to have the third fall in this. I mean,
Right.
obviously.
And the second fall is pretty quick too, because like Malenko starts to work over the knee, and then like he's more aggressive, and then he gets an Alabama slam and a clover leaf for the submission.
Yeah, quick submission too. So it kind of made sense that you would tap real quick since you have a little a little leeway with
Right.
having that one um, fall lead. So you can tap quick, get out of the move, and then reset and just let the best man win. So the psychology's there too.
Yeah, it is, and it's just masterful. Like I said, there's not enough superlatives that I can use to put these guys over.
Yeah, they're just the whole thing was just put on so well, and then it just sucks that they were going to WCW after that. Like that crowd got probably the best match they could have, left them with, but they wanted more the whole time.
Yeah, and the dude, when you mentioned the crowd, there were a few assholes that would chant boring like every once in a while, but the rest of the crowd was just so into this match that it completely overshadowed it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about the ECW crowd is that they want blood and guts a lot and everything, and that's what they're primarily there for. But when they have good wrestlers there, like they respect it usually.
Right. And a lot of the ECW fan base ended up being the ones that started watching Ring of Honor.
Hmm. Yeah,
And,
they can appreciate that pure style.
right. So, and they get a lot of it here. Like Malenko ends up hitting a uh one of the best brainbusters I've ever seen. Like El Generico level on
Yeah,
Eddie at the beginning of the third fall. Just fucking kills him with it.
yeah. This match, man, so hard hitting. Technically, no mistakes, just awesome, and the ending is interesting too.
Yeah, and there's like a lot that happens before, like, and just to go like real quick, like
Mhm.
Eddie hits a tornado DDT for 2, Eddie hits a brainbuster for 2, Eddie does a big frog splash for 2, which like they put over as holy shit he kicked out of the finisher. Um,
Mhm.
he hits all these moves, and Malenko managed to hit this fireman's carry gutbuster where he just like throws him all the way up in the air and Eddie lands across his knee. Like, holy shit, what a move.
It's the one that you see on the highlight tapes where he gives it off the second rope to Ray, where he throws him
Yeah.
like 8 feet in the air.
Yeah.
It looks so devastating every time he does it.
And that's a move that there's not a lot of, as we know, as a story time for our viewers. When we used to backyard wrestle, I broke my hip giving somebody a backbreaker. Just the way that the other hip, not the, like, I had him over the right leg and was going to
The
drop him on
planting
that.
hip.
And it was the planting hip, the left hip that broke. So we know that move is legitimately a tough one to deliver.
It's
So
actually called
especially
the hip breaker.
the hip breaker. As a kid, breaking a hip was a strange injury, but like that's a hard move to pull off, which I found out the hard way, and that's why we're not supposed to try this at home.
Yeah, don't do it at home, everybody, or just don't listen like every other kid in America that's watch wrestling or in the
Yes.
world probably.
Yep.
Oh man,
Um,
but this kind of wrestling, if you're gonna do the technical stuff, you could try it at home, I guess.
yeah. Just work on chaining with your friends.
Yes, just do a couple headlock takeovers. Oh.
So, yeah, I don't know if you want to get into the end here.
So this is where they now I might have this completely wrong because it was late at night while I was watching this, but it ends in a draw, correct?
It does.
Okay, so I thought they were going to restart it, but that's not what happens, which was surprising to me. They do a reverse roll up
Yeah, the
where
O'Connor rule.
yeah, the O'Connor roll, and then who was on top? Was it Malenko?
Yeah, Malenko was on top, and Eddie countered it by holding Malenko's shoulders down at the same time.
Yeah, it was a very creative finish. I can't believe somebody's probably stolen it by now, but I could see somebody stealing it now and it being a good, double uh draw or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm shocked that I haven't seen it any other times.
Yeah, I was actually like I that was the one time I've seen a draw and I was like, "Damn. That was like that might have been one of the most creative finishes that I've ever seen actually."
Right. And you don't need any crazy run-ins or anything for it either. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just so simple.
Yeah, and it's just the psychology again because he pulled his shoulders down so it was a double pin and they draw so nobody has to go over each other and then they get to do the mutual respect and talk to the crowd and kind of let their hearts out and their appreciation to the fans like their first fans in America pretty much.
Yeah, and the funny part about this that I loved was Malenko cut a better promo than Eddie did which shocked me because Eddie's known for his promos, and like to see how good that he got at him, or maybe he was just better as a heel at that point. But Malenko like gave this really heartfelt speech about how, you know, these fans appreciated his style and he didn't think they were going to, and he's now a fan of ECW and he's a fan of the ECW wrestling fans. And like he pandered, it was a better babyface promo at least, and Eddie was more generic where it was still heartfelt, but I just thought that was hilarious, like because Malenko is not known for cutting his promos.
Yeah, Malenko's probably cut about 3 promos in his life. Like they just never had him talk.
Right.
So I love Dean though. I'm glad that he got on the mic this time and was able to actually, you know, be charismatic.
Yeah, and then Art or Eddie Guerrero put over Art Barr too, his former best friend who'd passed away, and he said he hopes he made him proud, and they got a big pop, and he like shook the hand of every single fan in the front row, like he went all the way around, and like I didn't see him miss one fan.
That's awesome. See, that's the kind of stuff, you know, those are just great moments right there, and you know, both of these men move on to WCW, which is where we see our next match, which I know as soon as I said that, everybody probably knows what match it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the match. The match.
Yes. The match of the 90s is what a lot of people have called it, regardless of the company.
And that's not, I mean, it's got to be up there, especially for WCW.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely probably the best in-ring match. Definitely like top 5 of the decade there. And the other one, this last ECW one might also be up there, and just people didn't, you know, just slept on it at the time.
Yeah, it's truly a hidden gem.
It really is. It's an amazing match. But this is the Halloween Havoc 97 match between Ray and Eddie, you know, one of the many meetings that these men have in their career, 2 best friends. And Eddie and Ray tear the fucking house down at Halloween Havoc. And it's the opener, isn't it?
No, it's the third match.
No. Oh, okay.
I thought it was
early
originally. Yeah, and they give them only, the match is only about 13 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long. And isn't it mask versus title?
Yes, yeah. Ray put his mask on the line for the title, and the original booking plan actually was Eric Bischoff. You know how he wanted to take Ray's mask off, like he wanted Eddie to beat Ray.
I mean, I understand it. If you're gonna go like all the way with Eddie Guerrero, and you're going to push him into the main event, then do it.
Right.
But he wasn't going to, so I'm glad he didn't make that decision yet.
Yeah. We had to wait till like 99 or 2000 for Maskless Ray, where he made it filthy, dirty, nasty as part of the Filthy Animals.
And he looked like a 12-year-old. So it was sad, but good for Ray to recover and be able to wear his mask again.
Yeah, made him, and I'm sure that made him a shit ton of money too.
Yeah, that's why I don't know why you would unmask somebody that's that popular, because like you can obviously sell masks $15 a pop or something at the show.
Yeah, in WCW, like they never knew what to do with the merchandise, pretty much, like other than the NWO T-shirt. But like, can you imagine WWE if they would have had Rey Mysterio and pushed him like they did in 02, but like back in 97 when he was at his peak?
Oh my God, he was printing money with those masks if they would have ran with it.
I mean, I had a friend who didn't watch wrestling, or who watched it a little bit when they were a kid, but they're not into it at all now. But they're like, "Hey, I have this Rey Mysterio mask. Do you want it?" And I'm like, every kid owned a Rey Mysterio mask.
Exactly. No matter who, if you were into it for 4 weeks and you bought one thing, it was a Rey Mysterio mask.
Yeah, that's really the first wrestler that I ever got into was Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, just him. I feel like it's him and Jeff Hardy is what a lot of people say.
Yeah, they're both like universally loved.
Yep, exactly. Mine will be Cena and Eddie Guerrero, but I did love myself some Rey Mysterio, especially like cruiserweight division Rey Mysterio, because that's when I started watching. Like,
yeah,
before he got real big, he was just like going crazy there when he still did the West Coast pop and everything.
Mm-hmm. I remember watching his, I think the first Mysterio mask I ever saw was against mask match that I ever saw was against Mark Henry, and he did the Eddie Guerrero finish with Chavo where he like hit the chair off the mat and then gave it to Mark Henry, and Ray played dead, and then Ray won.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it drew me in, man. It was one of the first matches I've ever seen, and it drew me in.
The first one I think I saw with him was the WrestleMania 20 Cruiserweight Open,
Oh, nice.
which is a fun match. It's like 8 minutes, but it's fun.
Yeah, man, that cruiserweight division was just stacked back then.
Yeah, and you had Kidman, you had Jamie Noble, you had
Tajiri,
Chavo, and Chavo Classic, Tajiri,
Chavo Classic, the legend himself.
Akio.
Yes, Jimmy Wang Yang. Put some respect on his name, everybody that underappreciates him.
Oh, Matt Hardy was in it. Yeah, there was a lot of heavy hitters there.
Yeah, and it's just too bad they didn't get a little bit more time, but still, they put on a lot of fun matches that are memorable.
Oh yeah, and Funaki, SmackDown #1 announcer.
Yes, always put respect on Funaki's name too. That man works hard.
They really did have some studs though. Like now I keep thinking about them. Spike Dudley was in there.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Nunzio, yes, great guy.
True. London and Kendrick, Kid Cash.
Oh man, there was a lot of good people. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in this though, no cruiserweight division can beat the peak of WCW's in 96, 97, like with Benoit. Well, Benoit wasn't really cruiserweight, but like Eddie, Jericho, Malenko, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis. Yeah, just like all the luchadors and everything, like the Japanese wrestlers they had, like just incredible array of talent.
Every luchador Dragon. Ever.
Yeah, they just brought him over.
Everybody but Taka Michinoku, just like he was the only one in on Raw.
Yeah, poor Taka. They're like, all right, let's have him wrestle guys that are 240 pounds, and we'll just keep him. We'll hold him hostage from WCW.
He got to be in Kai and Tai, so it worked out.
Oh God! But Kai and Tai that's going to be part of an episode in the future.
That's got to be pretty soon because I saw the clip of the choppy thing, and,
oh no!
And I was like, oh, we have to do this as soon as I saw it.
It's amazing that we haven't covered it yet. Like we've tried to, I think, avoid a lot of Attitude Era stuff for the meantime, but I think we're going to have to dip into it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll get into it soon.
Yes,
yeah, it'll happen.
But
so this classic of a match, 100% a 5-star match, no matter what anybody wants to rate it.
Agreed.
Nobody can look me in the eyes and tell me that this is not a 5-star match. I will not believe them. They are a fucking liar.
It's one of, and you know what? I realized when I was watching this match, I'd seen another match between Eddie and Ray. I think it was a World War III. I had never seen this match before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because I was sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute, this is all new to me. Like, this is not familiar at all. I'm like, I've never seen this.
I had just watched it with our friend Chase Oliver, actually, like 2 months ago.
Oh, really?
And I had watched it probably 5 years before that, and then I just watched it again, and then I watched it again for this, and you can watch it every time. It's still, there's just like little moves that get you. Like just everything's so good in it.
Yeah, and like starting off with it, like Ray has Fashion Watch right here, man. He has the full purple bodysuit with the purple and silver mask, looking like a superhero.
Yeah, he always had just great in-ring gear. Like he always had a different color, like a different scheme. He used to do the Spider-Man one. That was awesome.
Yeah, he had the Joker before.
He did the Flash. He had a lot of good ones.
I just remember he came back at SummerSlam '07 and he was the Silver Surfer and he had silver body paint that got like all over everything.
I'm gonna have to watch that now because I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember buying that pay-per-view and my parents bought it. Obviously, I was 11, so but I remember watching that match and just like looking how I was so excited for Ray to come back, and I saw him come out and I'm like, he looks ridiculous.
This man just jumped into a thing of glitter. Like just looked ridiculous. Oh, that's great.
One of my favorite fashion watches of all time. But Eddie Eddie comes out with, he doesn't have a outfit fashion watch, but his hair choice, he's got the long greasy mullet, the goatee, and the sneer that he has on, and he just looks so different from even 2 years before.
Yeah, he is definitely one of the best heels in the company at that point. And I'm including the NWO in that because Eddie as a heel just he goes all in.
Yeah, and he's a heel too. Like he's not the cool heel like NWO was, where half the crowd was cheering for them. Like the whole crowd was chanting "Eddie sucks" multiple times during the match.
Yeah, he's and that it helps because Ray's so beloved, and the fact that Eddie's so good. So it everybody's completely invested in him being a bad guy.
Yeah, and it was just, this was just a magical, again, all three of these benefited from a very hot crowd as well.
Yeah, the crowd for Halloween Havoc. I don't know about the rest of the event, but up to this point, like they're going crazy.
They were, and especially for this match, like, and Ray gets over with the crowd a little bit. He gets the simpy from the people, according to Scott Steiner. Um, he gives his extra mask that he has when he walks out. He gives it to a kid, which starts that tradition.
Yes, and this match is Fast and the Furious. Shout out to Vin Diesel. Man, they are just like they are working hard. 13 minutes that just is nonstop, pretty much.
Yeah, there's virtually no rest holds. Like they immediately start with a cabrata into an arm drag, and Ray like sends Eddie to the outside like within the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then from there, like I can't even describe every move that happens because there's Hurricanrana's head scissors, arm drags, fucking Eddie hits some power bombs. You got planchas to the outside. You have suicide dives. I mean, there's just it's they're as our good friend Shaka said, and we've said this before, they throw the whole book at him.
And Eddie, like the best thing, Eddie's performance in this match, everything he hits has that like crispness to it, like the just viciousness behind it,
Mm-hmm.
which is like perfectly heel. Like when he hits those power bombs, like Ray bounces off the canvas. When he hits a back suplex, um, like he catches a cartwheel into a back suplex and a brainbuster, and he just fucking, each time it
Oh,
looks
that
like
was
he's folding
incredible.
Ray in half. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That was an amazing spot. I wasn't ready for that when it happened. No matter how many times I see this match, I was not ready for it.
And I want to give credit I always got to give credit to somebody. I got to
Yes.
give credit to Mike Tenay for being awesome on commentary. Like he knew all about these two guys, their beef, everything about Lucha Libre. Like he made Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain, and I think Dusty Rhodes was on here too. He made all of them like they all let him take over.
Yeah, Mike Tenay is great. I always liked Mike Tenay and TNA too. And they said he was more of a guy like this, where this was the position he should have been in, where he's explaining the backstories and everything and not doing play by play. But I enjoyed him in TNA too. So
I did too. Like I thought he's very good, and I'm surprised WWE never brought him in.
yeah, I think he would be great even if for just like a 205 live or something, or
Yeah.
like if he did NXT, that would have been good.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Mauro Ronaldo and how he should be the only, like he acts like he's the only announcer on the show. As much as I love Mauro, but like he'd talk about something being en fuego, and then Mike Tenay would be like, "Well, actually, Mauro," and then like explain, "Oh man, that's my dream team."
Oh, I forgot about Morrow now since he has been off for a little bit.
Yeah, he's done with WWE, and like I said, I like him a lot, but he got to be a little too. I like him as a human being too, like with what he does for mental health and everything.
Mhm.
But he just got to be a little too like he should have been the only guy in the booth, like a
Yeah,
Joey Styles type guy.
he was probably very stressed too. I think in
Yeah,
that situation, it just it was probably just taking its toll at that point.
absolutely. So it's good to see Moro, like he gets to do boxing events and everything. But yeah, that's my dream team.
Oh God, I see a JR and Mike Tenay. That would be fun, like a peak JR.
Oh, that would be great because Tanae could be the color comment. They would really like the amount of insight that they would have and background information would be fantastic.
We should we should just somehow build a convention like Conrad Thompson, and just do a show of Tenay JR and Jim Cornette explaining the history of all of wrestling.
Yes, they're not allowed to talk about new wrestling either.
No,
Like,
you cut them off at like at 98.
yeah, just get a little shock collar when they start to talk about the business nowadays. And
Yeah,
then,
just don't 90 nothing after 98 ever happened. We're just gonna put that out the window.
oh man. So, back to this match. One of the craziest spots that I have ever seen was they did a Greco-Roman knuckle lock. Ray like flipped out of it, jumped, springboarded to the top rope, and then did a springboard backflip DDT.
Yeah, he's just throwing moves together that I don't even know if they had names at this point.
And the announcers didn't know either. They're just like, "Oh my god, what just happened?"
The WCW announcers were great because they just usually didn't know what was the name for a move, and they'd just be like, "Oh no!" and just like scream in the middle of it.
Yeah, that just Bobby Heenan commentating over the cruiserweights was just always the best.
He'd be like, "What the hell was that?"
But I rewound that move 3 times, like after I saw it, because it was just so perfect.
Oh my god, everything in this match just they're hitting on all cylinders. It's absolutely incredible when two wrestlers, not just two average wrestlers, because if two average wrestlers are in the zone, you'll get a good match. When two of the all-time greats are in the zone against each other, it's complete magic, and it's exactly what pro wrestling should be. You could show this match to anybody that's never watched pro wrestling or hasn't watched it in a long time, and they will instantly like be entertained by this.
I agree. Like it'd be tough to figure out like the type of matches that you would want to show somebody who hasn't watched wrestling before, but this would be one of them.
Yeah, this would be one of them. I don't think anybody could look at this and be like, wow, that, I don't like wrestling after seeing this. Like, how that's so, phony or whatever people use or something like that. Like, you'd have to show them like this match, maybe Shawn or maybe Brett and Austin, something like that.
Yeah. One thing, like, and it's completely unrelated to it, but one thing that I've found draws people in is the Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell.
I was actually thinking that when you were saying like that was one of the first ones I thought of.
Yeah, because I showed my mom that, and like she's only watched wrestling like from like what we've watched when we were kids, but like I showed her that and she was blown away.
Yeah, the one that my girlfriend doesn't really. I mean, she'll watch a little bit now. Like if I put on AEW, she'll like look at it. She thinks Sammy Guevara is weird, so that works out. She thought because she saw the where he got hit with the golf cart.
Yeah.
So
Oh
she
God,
was
perfect.
like, she's like, why is this guy running him down in a golf cart? But she saw the I showed her a Money in the Bank, which she was kind of she didn't understand why they were all trying to climb a ladder for a piece of paper, but
Oh,
you know, it's one of those things because to us it's like, well, there's a contract in there, and then they could challenge any time for the title. And she's like, "What's that mean?" And I'm like,
yeah.
"Yeah," but
It's interesting to get the perspective from non-wrestling fans. But go ahead.
yeah, but the other one I watched was the Adam Cole Gargano one where Cole won the title, and
Yeah.
she thought that was good. So
Oh, nice. Shout out
yeah,
to Gargano and Cole. Like one of
Adam
my favorite
Cole,
matches
baby.
ever was that. Yes, one of my favorites ever was that first one they had when Gargano won the belt. Like that one was wow.
Yeah,
But
all their matches, just great stuff.
yeah, so in this right here, Eddie's like in control for a good portion of the match, like really most of the match. Just with his power moves, he keeps cutting Ray off. He puts him in a camel clutch, breaking his back, making him humble. Shout out to the Iron Sheik.
Yes,
and
yes, make him humble.
and then rips his mask, and that gets big heat.
Oh yeah, anytime you rip a mask, that gets heat. And poor Ray just trying to hold on to the lineage of the Mysterio mask.
Yeah, I mean, he received the mask from his uncle. He used to be, and this is one thing that Mike Tenay said, he was Calibre, and he was the Hummingbird before he was Ray. And then he got the mask, so like they really put it over huge. Like, this is the lineage, that Eddie Guerrero is essentially like just throwing away.
Yeah, and the Lucha Libre, really, if you are not a fan of Mexican wrestling, it's very hard to understand how much that in real life does mean to those wrestlers. So it's good that Tenay was on commentary for this.
Yes, because otherwise it would just be, no offense to Bobby the Brain Heenan, but making like jokes about Ray looking ugly
Yeah.
without a mask on. And it's so shout out to Mike Tenay again, but Eddie continues to work the back throughout this match too to try to slow Ray down. Like everything he does, like the gory special, the powerbomb backbreaker, the modified bow and arrow, they're all targeting the back.
Yeah, he's trying to wear down the very mobile Mysterio because Eddie can fly around, but nobody can fly like Rey Mysterio, except for
No.
maybe Ricochet.
Yeah, he's the only one where I've ever seen, and before I didn't know who Ricochet was until Lucha Underground when he's Prince Puma.
Oh yeah,
And
great.
my first thought was I would love to see him wrestle Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, that's
And he did.
Ricochet is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's unreal. Like I just feel bad that he doesn't have the charisma that Ray does.
Yeah, I hope Ricochet, ends up getting a good run at some point here.
Yeah, we're hoping for him. Until then, we might have to include him in some hidden gems.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But yeah, this match, man, God, so good.
Yeah, one of the things that Ray finally got control again when Eddie hit him with a Tree of Woe drop kick. Like he had Ray in the Tree of Woe and then did like the baseball slide and he went for it. And Ray sat up, so he missed and he crotched himself on the turnbuckle or the ring post, excuse me.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing that could happen to Eddie Guerrero. That turns the tide.
It does. And then Ray does a splash to the outside over the ring post, which blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, there's only a handful of people that do that too, even to today.
Right, because it's such a dangerous. If you slip and you miss, you're screwed. Like you're gonna look like Kofi Kingston. Like when he, do you remember when he hit his chest at the Royal Rumble?
Oh yeah,
That one
yes,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, like you're gonna act. It's gonna look like him, and you're gonna almost get impaled. But
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. So then Ray like started reversing everything like into these crazy head scissors, and finally, like the thing that blew my mind, another spot that I had to rewind was Ray somersaulted over the ropes to the outside, and then landed on Eddie's shoulders and hit a Hurricane Rana.
Yeah, that's insane. He used to do that Psychosis a lot too, and he may only do that to like Eddie and maybe Dean Malenko. He did it to once, and
And
Psychosis.
and maybe Andrade, I want to say.
Yeah, those might be the only four that I've actually seen it happen. That's very rare. Like I can picture the move in my head and I can see him doing it, but I can only think of those people that he's done it to.
Yeah, it's in that I'm sure it takes a certain level of trust too with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's
you got to catch me.
A lot of moving parts there because it's not like he's just jumping onto his shoulders. He's front flipping onto the man's shoulders. So there's a lot of momentum coming down.
Yeah.
And then the person has to be able to base strong enough to, do that and be able to turn and flip with it. That's an incredible move.
Yeah. We're going to have to talk with Chase Oliver about that, the physics behind that move. Because
yeah, we're gonna have to see if he can do it. I'm gonna make him jump off my basement steps and see if we can pull it off. We'll have to record it for the YouTube page.
Yeah, we'll have to hit him up with in the group chat after this. So you know this move, you're gonna have to pull it off, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be like, you know the move we're talking about. Yeah, let's try that.
Oh man,
that'd be great.
Yeah, so Ray ends up hitting like this fucking corkscrew moonsault for 2. He goes for the Arabian press and it gets knees. The power bomb where Ray bounces is 2. And Eddie finally goes for at the finish. He goes for the frog splash and he misses, but he does that really cool roll through where he like somersaults as soon as he hits the canvas. And Ray gets crotched on the top rope, and Eddie goes for a top rope razor's edge.
Yes, and that is where Ray reverses it and does the Hurricanrana, or Frankensteiner, I guess, is what it would be up there.
Yeah, and you are right. That's Eddie. I was gonna say, I think who was Joey Styles, I think, explained exactly what you just said on the ECW match. So It's perfect.
It's the Frankensteiner either when Steiner's doing it or when you're on the top rope, I guess.
Yes, yes. But Ray manages to pull out the win, even though Eddie looks very strong throughout the whole match, and but Ray comes out even with the win, and even though Eddie jumps him afterwards, like Ray is still the champion. He still has his mask, and holy shit, what a match!
Yeah, and this, like we said, the first one is the technical masterpiece. This is great. There's great drama here. There's a lot of high stakes. Great story. Great heel and face work, and and the high flying, one of the best high flying matches of all time. So, you saw the technical one. Now you're seeing the high flying one. And this next match that we'll talk about is the, defining moment where everything just feels super big. Every move, is you're hanging on the edge of your seat in the last match.
Yeah, and it's the match quality itself is good, not the greatest in the world, but the story is what makes it here, and the story is one of the best that I've ever seen, most effective that I've seen in all of wrestling, and just the emotion that you feel when the match is over is just very, very real.
Yeah, and this is where we moved to WWE, and this is No Way Out 2004, and it is Eddie taking the title from Brock Lesnar, and it's one of the best moments maybe in wrestling history, one of the most emotional.
Yes, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, I've been doing a thing, Main Event Candles, which is a Twitter account. They sell wrestling candles, which is amazing.
I kind of want to get some. I've been looking at him. I got to see if I know he's in England, so I don't know how far he ships out.
Yes, I'll send him a message on Twitter for you.
Oh,
But
okay. Gotcha.
yeah, so anyway, they posted a thing where it's like November. There's 30 days in November, right? First off.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, so it's the like 30 days of like just various things about wrestling, and the one was most emotional moments, and to me, like the Eddie moment, like especially it happened like just after I watched it, and like the Eddie moment is one of the most emotional moments that I've ever seen in wrestling.
It's very hard for me to think of another one, that with that much emotion.
Right, especially now though, especially now.
Besides for maybe the Daniel Bryan win, that
Yeah,
might be up there.
yeah, other than people's retirements, like the only thing close was the Gargano one. In my opinion, because I've watched Johnny Gargano since like 2010, so it was like really emotional for me to be like, wow, I actually met that guy, when I was 14, and now he's the world NXT champion. But
yeah,
it's still not on the level of Eddie.
No, this is a very special match, and like you said, I mean, there's not too much where it's like any spots that you're going to remember specifically besides for, the ending, but everything that, between Brock, every move he hit, it felt like Eddie was in danger because, I mean, look at Brock Lesnar at that point. He had pecs on his pecs.
Oh my God, that's the first thing I wrote was Brock looks massive here. Like,
Brock
oh
was
my
like
God.
325. Like he was
Yeah,
disgustingly big at this point.
pure muscle. Because now we're used to like stocky Brock Lesnar, where like he's still massive and scary and like will hurt you, but here Brock looked like the Incredible Hulk.
This was like Ivan Drago levels of like of enhancers that he was being given. Like this man was so fucking big between 02 and 04. It was ridiculous. I mean, he now, and this is the kind of athlete Brock Lesnar is, because me and Chase Oliver were talking about this the other day. When he left the business to try out for football, he was at the NFL Combine and he ran a 4.7 40-yard dash.
That's incredible.
That's faster than, if anybody overseas, they probably don't know as much of the American football players, but that's faster than J.J. Watt, who's like a 3-time defensive player of the year.
Yeah, and he had like the explosiveness too, like the acceleration and everything. Like in Madden, his acceleration would be 99.
Dude, I looked up his combine stats just because we were talking about how much of a freak athlete he was. This man ran a 4.7 at 275, I think, and he's 6'3", 275 or something at that point. He runs a 4.7, does like 33 or something reps on 225 on the bench. His vertical was like 39 inches or something.
Jesus.
It's ridiculous, like complete freak of nature.
My vertical is like 34 inches shorter than that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If I can, if I could get 20 inches right now, I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, just the unreal athleticism of Lesnar for his, not just for his size, but in general. I mean, this is a guy who almost made the NFL despite never playing since high school. He had been in a motorcycle accident like before training camp started, so he was recovering from that while he was still playing. He won the NCAA heavyweight championship. He won the UFC title, like just unreal.
He won a UFC heavyweight title after not being trained as a striker until he decided he was going to go into MMA. Like, ridiculous.
It blows me away every time I think about like how good he really is. And this is a guy who, Eddie Guerrero, he's about 5'8". At this point, he's probably around, I think they bill him as like 225.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's muscled up enough where you could probably believe it. But it's just really, if you look at the two guys, you think, well, Lesnar is going to kill him.
Oh yeah, and it's not where he's just this big guy. It's not like he's fighting somebody like I don't know, like oh God, who's a person, Vladimir Kozlov or somebody. Like, he's not just fighting a big dude. He's fighting a big dude who's also a national heavyweight champion wrestler. So it's like, every time the story, and they tell this story well throughout the matches, every time there's a big move, you're like, oh God, is Eddie going to be able to get up from that? And they really tell a great story of Eddie, chopping down Brock Lesnar, staying on him, uses his speed a little bit, his veteran mind to stay ahead of Brock. And when the power becomes too much, that's when they kick in the story and they do the creative angle, and then they get the outcome that we needed.
Yeah, and it was the way, like you said, the way it was told and the way they blended it in with Lesnar's next feud with Goldberg, like that was excellent booking on the part of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and everybody else that was involved. Like, they made the next feud look just as good as the feud that just occurred.
Yeah, and that was a match people wanted, and then you got another match people wanted with Eddie and Kurt at Mania, so it worked out. And in this whole match, we could talk at length about the various the other moves that happen. There's of course power moves by Brock. There's a lot of good technical work by Eddie had an STF on to keep him grounded. There's a lot of things like that, but when it comes down to the climax of this match, you have Eddie in peril, and Brock ends up getting the title, and that's where you kick in to probably the greatest, maybe one of the greatest storytelling moments with outside interference in recent memory.
Right. By the way, like the one I just wanted to, since everything else is so good in this match, I want to be the Debbie Downer here. The selling in this match was like, I counted a bit, like when Eddie was waiting for Brock to get up, there was literally 30 seconds in between when he grabbed the belt and then when Brock got up. Like, there was a point where Brock had him in a headlock, and it was a good minute before anything happened. Like, if it was 10 minutes shorter, I think it would be one of the best matches ever. But now it's like just a really good match with an amazing finish. But really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just nitpicking because of the story that was told. Like you said, with where the fact, like, Eddie finally gets the belt and he's waiting for Brock to get up, and Brock goes for the, or excuse me, I got a little mixed up here. Which was it, before or after Goldberg's run-in?
Well, it was when Goldberg was about to run in. Eddie was in peril.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I got a little. I have the I
The
got a little bit
CTE.
confused there.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
yeah. I took
Just
an
kidding.
unprotected chair shot the other day.
Just concussed yourself here. No, you're not even drinking either. I couldn't have said you were drunk. You already made it clear that you didn't chill the bourbon.
I did not.
So, but yeah, Eddie's the one down, which leads to Goldberg. When Stone Cold said, "Don't do anything I wouldn't do,"
That's
and then
right.
of course Goldberg listened.
Yeah, Goldberg came in and he speared the shit out of Brock
Oh
Lesnar.
my God, he destroyed him.
Yep. There's not too much better in the WWE than Brock Lesnar getting speared by Goldberg.
I don't know if there's the best one ever is Nunzio at the Rumble,
Oh, yes, it is.
where he
Oh
goes
my
like
God.
halfway across the ring. That's the best spear of all time, maybe.
Oh God, I forgot about that one.
Because he
That
just runs in, just ends Nunzio's existence.
and he had a good one against Christian too, where he absolutely murdered.
Yes. Oh yeah, he drove him almost through the mat.
I am able, like, I can watch a compilation of the spears that Goldberg hits. Like I think I've seen one on YouTube before, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, he just literally runs as hard as he can at people.
And then just tackles them. And it's a former NFL player. We were talking about Brock Lesnar. Like Goldberg, former NFL player, had more time on NFL teams than Brock Lesnar did, and that man can hit.
Oh yeah, and he was in the longest yard, so he can hit.
Which we will be covering eventually because we put it on the list.
It's on the list. Yes, it's
just
one of
made
the
the
best
list.
movies ever.
Yes, it is.
It might be my favorite movie of all time, honestly.
Damn, high praise.
I mean, I just love the movie. Just the cast of characters is just amazing.
It is. You got Nelly as the greatest running back of all time.
Yes, you got Nelly, you got Adam Sandler, you got Terry Crews, Great Khali.
Rock. Yeah, it's just such a weird group of people, but
yeah, God, awesome.
Yeah, so back to this match. Goldberg hits the spear, and everybody. A good thing about people laying there forever, like during this, was the crowd just went nuts the entire time, wanting Eddie to roll over and get the pin.
Yes, and then he tries to, or wait, no, does he go for a pin and Brock kicks out or no?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. And Brock kicks out, and the fans are like, "Fuck, we thought we were gonna get what we wanted," and that leads to where Brock picks up the title, correct?
Yes.
And
no, Eddie grabs the belt because Brock had already grabbed it.
Yeah, so Eddie picks up the belt, and Brock goes to give him and Brock picks him up for the F5.
Yep.
And Eddie had dropped the belt, but he counters the F5 into Tornado DDT onto the belt.
Yes.
And then we get the great moment where the whole crowd is standing up because they realize that Eddie is going to hit this frog splash. And when he does and gets the 3 count, God, that place goes banana, as Pat Patterson would say.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it, man. Like that, it was fucking. And Michael Cole, as much shit as people give him, had an amazing call where he's just like, "Come on, Eddie, hit the frog splash, do it!" Like, and
I like Michael Cole. I actually really liked Michael Cole on SmackDown.
Yeah, on SmackDown, I think he did a really nice job, and especially here, like he did a very good job putting over Eddie as the underdog. And finally, when Eddie won, like the greatest thing was his first move was he just dove right into the crowd.
Yes, it was like a soccer goal where he just ran and dove into the crowd to celebrate.
Yep, and the security actually had to pull him out of the crowd because he was just like laying amongst the people in like one of the coolest moments.
Mm-hmm. And he had the title. He got to hug his mom.
Yeah, and his brother Mondo, and
his brother was there.
That's where I got emotional when I saw them. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Like, damn, what a moment.
It was incredible. And the crowd went absolutely nuts too when Goldberg speared Brock Lesnar. We got to throw that in there. Goldberg was hell over at this time. So everything. The crowd was just so ready for this. And it was one of the best moments in wrestling history, I believe. One of the most, the happiest moments.
Yeah, because this was the first time I think Eddie had ever even wrestled for a world title.
Yeah, I don't know if he did. He might in the Hidden Gem match. I think he wrestled.
Oh yeah,
for the world title.
Yeah,
but it was just on TV.
Yeah, that was literally the only time though. I can't because he never wrestled for the WCW title, never the ECW title, and I don't think he'd ever had a WWE title match at that point other than the one against The Rock.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So that's just an amazing moment there. And especially they really put over in the build to this match to get a little bit to transition to like Eddie Guerrero as the person. Eddie had a lot of personal demons, which I read his book, Cheating Death, Stealing Life, I believe it was titled.
Yes.
The story, which is a great name for the book, but
Hmm.
Eddie had a big issue with drug addiction and alcoholism, and he managed to beat that. And it almost cost him his family, his career. I mean, he got fired by WWF in 2001, I want to say,
Yes.
because of he was just so messed up he couldn't even really work anymore. He'd been in a horrible car accident where he almost died. He got ejected through the windshield, and they actually said this was back in WCW, but he I think he had gotten drunk and he drove, and he because of his wrestling training, they think like the doctors thought that he was able to tuck and roll out of this fucking like collision through like as soon as he went through the windshield and landed on the ground, because otherwise he would have died.
Wow. Yeah, he had been through a lot, and I'm pretty sure his dad died when he was young. So I mean, there was a lot of, he loves his family. He had, a lot of older brothers that could be that father figure, but his
Yeah.
dad, passed away when he was pretty young.
Yeah, I think he was well, I think he was about our age when it happened because
Okay.
his dad was really old, but like again, we're 24, 25 years old. Like that's still
Hmm.
really young to have your father pass away.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure that affected him. Pain from being on the road. He was always trying to get bigger. I think it's pretty documented that he was on some performance enhancers.
Right.
Uh, and he was unnaturally huge at one point almost. Like, I mean, he was very big at the end of his run, but he went up in that time where if you were a smaller guy, you had to get big
Right.
to be able to have that spot. And, it did hamper him a little bit, with his heart issues. I know they said a lot of the drugs and alcohol and everything played into it, but man, he's a great story of just overcoming, whatever as bad as you think life can get, man. Eddie Guerrero saw it all and he came back and became a success story.
Right. And he had this is a guy too where he everybody loved him even when he was going through his issues like with like his friends. They still like Dean Malenko, and obviously this is a controversial one, but Chris Benoit, like they really helped take care of him a lot on the road, like when he was getting sick, and they did it really out of love. And that was the great thing, was at least he was able to come out of those tough times, and he was able to become such continue to be a wonderful human being outside of his illnesses. And he found God, and he really made that like that became a huge part of his personality after
Hmm.
after the dealing with the addictions and the lows of life. And he really managed to make those highs like is the best that he could be. Like he just really became a role model, really.
Yeah, he was able to. His book's incredible. You could probably get his book. I don't know if you've ever used Thrift Books, Tom, but there's a website called Thrift Books that I don't know
Really.
where they ship to, but if they have an app. I'm just plugging
Ooh.
them for free now, but it's like used books. They're like $5, and
Oh
I'm sure
wow.
Eddie Guerrero's is probably available if anybody wants to read it, because some wrestling autobiographies aren't great, but his is very real, and
It
it's
is.
it's very it's a very good read. It's definitely like not a hard read or anything, but it's a lot of good stories about wrestling and about just like life and perseverance.
Yeah, it's truly one of the best. I mean, and everybody, it's like how Eddie was one of the most underrated performers of all time. Like before, and now finally, like people are looking at him as one of the greats. But like while he was wrestling, he was always one of the more underrated guys. His book is one of the most underrated books that there is in professional wrestling.
Yeah, and I really would have just loved to see more of Eddie. I mean, we didn't really touch on any of his segments, and we're not going to go too far in depth because it's already been like an hour and 15 minutes here. We talked about three of his greatest matches ever, but I mean, just the small things he did, like his stuff, like he could be funny, he could be serious, he could cut a good promo. He had a great character with the low riders, and he did his Latino Heat shoulder shimmy, and just like everything about him was fun or just well done, even when he was a heel.
Yeah, and like we covered, and this will be another cheap plug, but for our third episode ever, we did the "I'm Your Poppy" storyline where Eddie claimed that he had a illegitimate child, and which ended up being Dominic Mysterio that he gave to Rey Mysterio to raise essentially, and now he wanted his child back. So Eddie just playing the heel so well. One of my favorite moments, and it's comical, but it's like ridiculous like that it happened, was when he called Dominic. He's like, "What are you doing, SA?" Like this little 8-year-old boy, and threatening to backhand this kid for shaking the ladder and trying to knock him off, like during the ladder match. Like it's just so ridiculous, but Eddie makes you buy into it. Like it shows that even the most ridiculous things, if they're given to the right performer, they can make them work.
Now, there's some random things I can think about Eddie too. Is there's an incredible street fight between him and Cena in like '03, which
Yes,
is great. And I
in
had
the
the
parking
wrestling,
lot.
I had the figures of that match when I
Oh
was a
wow.
little kid, like them in their like street fight clothes. They had a good feud over that U.S. title, and then I mean, just like there's some fun things. I can't remember which event this was, but it was in '04 when JBL was a champion. It was the Fatal Four Way,
Oh,
um,
Armageddon.
Armageddon. There's like
Yeah.
one random like little interview in there, which I'm sure has a little thing on the network where it's him and Booker T talking, and the Undertaker like peers in, and they both get freaked out, and it's just like it's a great little like Eddie Guerrero thing because he gets his eyes all wide and he's like he's behind me or something, isn't he? And
Yeah.
like they do one of those. Um, the whole feud with JBL was good stuff because he was El Gran Luchador.
Yes. Yes. I
Uh,
forgot about that.
and the other one I could think of was when he oh god he had Kurt Angle's stuff and he was auctioning it, the gold medals,
Yeah.
and when he painted the mustache on Kurt Angle's picture. There's just funny things he does. Like the storyline with China will probably be an episode at some point too, where
True.
the Latino Heat stuff. But that was great. He was engaged to China on TV one time. Like, come on. I mean, there's so many things that Eddie did.
Yeah, and to me, one of the matches that we didn't do, because I think we agreed that like him winning the WWE title is like the perfect match to end on. But
Hmm.
after that, his match against JBL at Judgment Day '04, which was the famous one where Eddie gets busted open by the chair. Well, he does the blade job and like he loses like half the blood in his body almost. So it's what it seems
That
like.
is one of the another. I think I might have bought that pay-per-view too live, and I just remember how terrifying that was. But just thinking about it right now, and anytime I watch that match, I get goosebumps when Eddie is like, you think he's like legitimately dead in the sleeper hold from JBL, and the crowd starts to like try to get him up, and he starts to do the like shimmy dance
Yeah.
as he's all bloody, and that just immediately gets me like just goosebumps every time.
It what a fucking moment. Like that's the type of thing. Eddie Guerrero is the type of performer that makes you proud to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, and great guy, defeated his demons, and really he's one of the only people in wrestling history that I don't think anyone says anything bad about.
Yeah. Really. I don't think anybody could have a bad word about him because of just all of the everything that he contributed to the business and just as a human being too. It really shows the strength of his character. His real life character, not the Latino Heat character, which is a very strong character in and of itself. But and of course, it's just such a shame that he passed away so young. He was only 38 years old, and it was just such a damn shame.
Yeah, it was definitely sad. One of the only times I think I've ever cried watching wrestling, and I will admit it, was the night, the tribute night of Eddie's, after Eddie's death.
Yeah.
That SmackDown where they put the title on the lowrider. Oh my God, I've never watched that back, and I feel like I should sometimes because I
Right.
remember it being a good show. But it's like one of those where I'm like, oh, that's gonna be like an hour of my life where it's gonna just be like happy, but also like so sad at the same time.
Yeah, and then it's sad though because then you fall into the Chris Benoit thing too, which is always seems to
Hmm.
be linked to Eddie, and that's just we won't get too far into it because we're not going to do that on this episode. But it
No.
just how much Eddie meant to other people, you can really
Yeah.
find out on that show.
Yes. Exactly. But anything else you got on Eddie Guerrero before we leave it here on this delayed episode? Um,
Um,
yeah, we were going to do it like very close to the 15th anniversary, but I happen to have another death in the family. So that was
yeah,
something that pushes back, which I felt bad
yes.
about, but it happens.
It happens, man. I mean, anytime that we can get on, it's a pleasure to be able to do this, and even if it takes a little bit, it takes a while. It doesn't matter to me, man. As long as we're on here doing this, I'm having a great time talking about Eddie Guerrero and
Yeah.
all the like. I mean, just a great time here.
Yeah, and what we were gonna, I'm gonna throw this out here too, is because we have a lot of things on our list of stuff we want to cover here, but we also, if you guys have something that you want us to cover and take a look at, you can either tweet at us, hit us up on Instagram, um, or if you really want to, you can leave a 5-star written review and
Yes.
say, please cover this topic, and we will definitely put it on the schedule and let you know.
Oh, that's how you do it. That's a good
Yes,
plug
see
right
that.
there.
Yeah. Put it on there. We'll say your Apple ID name or whatever, and then we'll say what episode it is, and we'll get it on the schedule, and we'll definitely do it. So
Yes,
we're
because
because somebody, we want to cover Joker Sting probably for a while. It was
yeah,
on our list, but somebody wanted it, and we were very happy they did because it's one of my favorite episodes ever.
yeah. Shout out to Leslie, man, for yet again for giving, like you said, one of our favorite episodes. Like, and I didn't think I was gonna like it at all. I'm like, man, Joker Sting, this is gonna be rough. And then we started recording, and I'm like, this is fucking amazing. I'm so glad this happened.
Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, leave the 5-star written review if you want something covered, and we'll bump that onto the 2021 schedule. Early in the year, we're starting to plan some of that out. We have the whole year of 2020 already planned out. Only like 5 more episodes, 6 more episodes, but it will definitely be on the 2021 early, first 2 or 3 months schedule there. So just let us know. We got Tom rocking the Twitter at Stranger Rings One. On Instagram, we are Stranger Rings Pod, and just you can share, on either of those. You can also comment. I'll put a picture up on the Instagram of Eddie, and you can tweet us your favorite memories of Eddie Guerrero too. We're always eager to hear it. So, Tom, anything else
Absolutely.
before we bounce out of here? What do we have next week? Too, I forgot about
Well,
that.
I'm not sure exactly when this will go up, but we do have another Eddie Guerrero related content. We have our first ever Hidden Gems episode, which is going to be awesome.
Yes, yes, that will be the hidden gem with Eddie and The Rock. So
Yes.
that's going to be exciting. This is going to be up, maybe not even on a Wednesday. It might just kind of go up, as we go. But this is yeah, this was fun. This was great to look back on A Guerrero. Rest in peace. I can't believe it's been 15 years,
Yeah.
but
Crazy, man.
it's good to look back, with fond memories of our childhood with a great wrestler like that.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Be safe. Until we get this vaccine out here, everybody stay safe. Keep watching all your wrestling. Tell your friends about us.
Yes.
And yeah, and we'll be back with the hidden gem, the Eddie Guerrero match here soon. So we will see you then.